Well, you are not going to want to miss today's garden life because I am going to share with you top 10 perennials anyone can grow that you probably want to be planting right now. I've done this same topic in the past, but it was with things that were a little bit, well, they were just a different color palette. Today I want to concentrate on the color palette of spring. So most of these are going to be in yellows, blues, whites. Well, what do you say? Let's do it. Make sure to stay to the end and we'll give you a comprehensive list of all of these plants, and you can take it to the nursery with you when you go shopping this spring. Okay, before we get started, Stuart, did you enjoy the snow/rain this morning?
So crazy.
Yeah, and it was crazy. And we've got a freeze warning for tonight that I'm not too worried about it, and I'll tell you why at the very end of today's video. But let's just take a moment to look at how beautiful the topiary look on the front porch. I'm getting ready to bring them all in to do a little tending to them and to protect them in case we do have a freeze tonight. And well, I just think they're sweet. They're putting on all sorts of new growth, and it makes me happy. Okay, so let's start out with number one of my top 10 perennials. Now, the qualifications for being one of my top perennials are, number one, they have to be so easy to grow that almost anyone can grow them. They have to be able to handle both extremes, both heat and cold. They have to be pretty adaptable to almost any type of soil, though all of them will appreciate better drainage. They have to be relatively low maintenance, and they also have to have a pretty good form all year round. So that said, let's go on to number one. Okay, the other reason that I want to share these perennials with you right now is because they are also available right now, and you'll want to plant them right now so they have a chance to get established before any kind of heat sets in, or at least the kind of heat that sets in my Zone 7 garden. You guys have, multiple of you have requested that I start sharing with you at the beginning of each video where I garden. And I do. I garden in Oklahoma City in Zone 7B. Okay, so Stuart has already highlighted a number one very easy to grow perennial, and that's Dianthus. You can find it everywhere in nurseries right now. I love this little white variety. I don't even know exactly what variety it is, but you can get all sorts of Dianthus that will grow in pinks, in dark pink, in red, in white, and in kind of a lilac color. Well, I love this white color, and I also love the color of the foliage. It's kind of that blue-green. Oftentimes when I am getting ready to plant a perennial, I will grow it in pots first and then install it in my garden later. And this is a perfect example of that. I've got 2 clumps of this Dianthus in this Easter basket pot. I've got another clump up here with the moss, and pretty soon I will be planting them in the border. And I'm going to show you where I'm going to plant them and why when we come back. But you can definitely see how that white Dianthus will fit into the tableau on these berms that kind of cascade down to the sidewalk. So in the past, I had 2 boxwood that were planted in these little squares right here. Subsequently, I thought they got too big, and so I transplanted them to another area. But now I have these 2 perfect squares on either side where I plan to plant that Dianthus. And it will do really well here for a couple of different reasons. Number one, it can grow in full sun, and I certainly get full sun here from this southern exposure. Number two, it really likes a little bit better drainage than some other perennials, and this berm is planted on a grade. And number three, I'm going to plant it pretty shortly, and that will help it get established before the heat sets in. It will also be able to avoid any kind of overwatering or kind of rot, because once it starts growing, it's going to grow and cascade over these bricks, and it will really like being protected from any kind of soggy, wet soil once it sets in. And number 2 is Nepeta, or catmint, commonly known as catmint. I have a number of different varieties growing. Actually, I don't think you can go wrong on any of them. Some of the more popular varieties include Walker's Low, and this is Persian Blue, and I think it's really beautiful. I love the way this creates these tight little tufts when it first comes out. It will put out really sweet lavender blue towards purple flowers as it begins to bloom, and just look how healthy it is. And I've got it running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 5 tufts of it that run along the sidewalk leading up to the front porch in that characteristic blue, and also in that characteristic blue-gray foliage I love so much. Now, you may also recall that in the window box just last week, I planted another variety that has a little bit more of a yellow leaf called Chartreuse on the Loose. But again, I don't, Chartreuse on the Loose, I know, and I love it because it reminds me of our grand dog Goose. We always say when he plays, it's Goose on the Loose. So, but I digress. You really can't go wrong with any form of it, either in a container planting or in your garden beds. Once it blooms, if you want to contain it and you want to manage its shape and keep it from getting too leggy, then after it blooms, just shear it back and it will come back just, well, full throttle. Now, one thing it can be prone to is spider mite, but again, just keep an eye on it. Treat it with some insecticidal soap if that's a problem, and you can always cut it all the way back and just start again with new, fresh foliage. Okay, do you like my pointer? This is a little spay that my friend Kat gave me. She lives in California, and I do just love it. And I wish I could tell you the brand right now, but I can't, but I'll get it for you. Okay, so let me point out a couple of things before I move on to our next must-have perennial to plant right now, and that is, look at this gorgeous Encore azalea. I believe this one is Empress, and look how pretty it looks with this bacopa growing in front of it. That's just a hanging basket that I just dropped there. And then also look at all of the flowers on my rabbit eye daisies. I think this one takes the cake. So it's very pretty. It's very, very springy, and I love it. And I'm really surprised. My other Encore azaleas that were more established, they took a little bit more of a hit in the cold than this one, but I think it looks beautiful. But again, I get back to the subject. So the next plant that you need to have that is just so easy, really any plant in the daisy family. We're probably most familiar with daisies. They are a leucanthemum, a form of leucanthemum, and I have some. These are complements of the Southern Living Plant Collection. I've got 1, 2, 3 big bunches of them over here. I also have some on I can't talk. I'm a little bit cold, on autumn's edge, because obviously they will also bloom into autumn, and they're absolutely gorgeous. This is one that is a double flower in a pale yellow. I will put the link to them if I can find it. And well, it's just so easy. It's so adaptive to any kind of soil. And as I said earlier, I think its foliage looks pretty good all summer long, even if it goes through a spell of not putting out any blooms, because it might be prohibitively hot. But you can find these now. I think you can't go wrong with daisies. Nothing is sweeter, and nothing more befits the kind of aura of a cottage garden. And next is the whole family of sedums. There are so many different varieties. I really won't even point out that many. This one I have shown to you many times. This is Pure Joy, Sedum Pure Joy. Look at how darling it looks in these containers. It's that traditional, or that kind of signature color of mine, that blue-gray foliage, and I absolutely love it. The same color is also repeated over here in absolutely, I think, maybe the most easy perennial to grow, and that is Sedum Autumn Joy. It's absolutely beautiful, and I need to just break off some pieces and spread it around even more. You can see a clump there, another clump I started next to it. There's a clump over in there underneath that rose. I probably need to relocate it. But then there's other kinds that have a color that might be more befitting your garden. Let me pick up a plant tag down here. And that is also great if you want something that spills out over the edge. And I've got an example of this right here.
We're taking the scenic route too.
We're taking the scenic route. Now, isn't this gorgeous? I love its growth habit. I should probably have said that another reason I select these perennials is also because they're so easy to propagate. And this is so easy to propagate that you just literally can pinch off a piece and stick it in the ground. I've showed you that before. But I also love, from a design standpoint, the way it's got kind of a reddish purple cast to the stem and how beautiful that looks with surrounding plants like this Obsession nandina, and ultimately even the pink on the roses. I think it looks really beautiful. So I've got a clump there, and I've got another clump down here. Look at these better boxwood. Are they not? If you haven't watched Why This Is My Favorite Plant, then you need to. Oh, gorgeous. This is Kaleidoscope Abelia, and it also looks beautiful with this sedum, and it will continue to spread, not only because that's his growth pattern, but also because I will probably be spreading it around because it's just such a beauty. Okay, well, next up on my list is Salvia. I have promised you that ultimately this would bloom in this characteristic, just absolutely gorgeous bluish purple, and indeed it has. This variety is East Friesland, but you really can't go wrong with almost any variety. I have some that grows in a very characteristic kind of a let's call it a deep pink, a lipstick pink, but look how beautifully that coordinates with the color of the pansies and the violas. And again, this is repeated. I've got some here, there's some on the other side of this berm, but look at how it brings your eye up and around. And then there are a number of clumps up here on the upper terrace. And not only does this grow so beautifully all summer long, all I have to do is keep it deadheaded, periodically shearing it back, and it will pump out these gorgeous blue blooms all summer long. In addition, it goes to seed pretty easily, but not in an obnoxious way. You can see right here that I've got some little babies. There's one there. Here's a little baby that came up over here, and that's Mother Nature's design. I can either choose to leave it where it is, or I can gift it, or I can move it around the garden. But definitely, I think Salvia in all of its various forms is a winner. It's easy to find right now. It's easy to divide. It's easy to care for, and it can handle anything Mother Nature throws at it. Okay, yesterday I showed you on Signature Style Saturday that Hub's got a new toy, those Knox monoculars. I think they are going to be so much fun. So many of you are interested in them, and I also have them on my list, maybe for Easter. But since Hub's got a new toy, so did I. Yes, it is another Works tool, and let me show you why I wanted it. I've never had this in their line before. You guys know that I have several things in the Works Garden Products line. But here's why I want this, my new tool. And what is the new tool? It is an edger, a weed eater, a trimmer. And most of the time now, since I moved to the cottage, I do have somebody that comes and they mow for me and they edge for me. At the other house, I did it for probably 35 years myself, but now, mostly because I just don't want to store the equipment, I don't have room for it, I let Kayla's guys do it for me. It's such a small area that it's really not cost prohibitive. But the other thing is that I noticed, like right now, the grass on these front berms looks so green and lush, and quite frankly, it looks very, very Eastery. Stuart, can we step back here and get a full-blown effect that it kind of looks like a living Easter basket, and it will continue to evolve with more of those pink tulips as they come out. But I think part of the reason it looks like that is because of the lush grass. And I kind of think it looks sweet growing a little bit longer. But what I really want to make sure that I control is the grass around the edges. If you guys have, if you want to grow a native lawn, if you want to be a pollinator-friendly lawn, and you want to let your nutsedge and your henbit and your daisies just run wild for pollinators. I said daisies, I meant dandelions. More power to you. But one thing you can do to keep it urban friendly and neighborhood friendly, and that's by just doing the same thing that I'm going to do with my grass using my new Works tool, and that is I can leave it long, but I will always have a nice clean edge. So it will be lush and tall in the middle, but around the edges it will be very tailored, it will be very groomed, and it will be very manicured. And that way it looks intentional. It won't take me any time to do it. The grass in the middle will actually enjoy being a little bit longer, and it will just look as if it's intentional and not that it's just been raining so much that I couldn't get to the mowing. Now, some of you comment and wonder why I name different parts of my garden. Well, part of it is that I can then, when I'm writing and recording things in my garden journal, or I can even, like when I say, Stuart, let's get a really good picture of something, then he knows geographically where that's located in the garden, and so do I. So I can say, and I can tell you that along Autumn's Edge, I have another one of those perennials that does just brilliantly, and that would be Gaura, G-U-A-R-A. You can see a clump of it right here. It blooms in white. It's also called, I believe, whirlybird. And I've got another clump right here. It is very tolerant of different kinds of soil, though it definitely appreciates better drainage, which is one of the reasons I have it here on the berm. It wants to be in full sun, and it actually is very drought tolerant once it gets established. It comes in different colors, all befitting the landscape shades that I have here: white, pink, and maybe even a little darker pink. But as I said, I've got two clumps here. I could cut it back right now. I could shear it back, and that will make that stand of Gaura that much taller and that much more full. The other thing I like about it is it really does well in the summertime. So when it gets very hot, it's nice here to have this blousy, hovering floral form in the garden. It looks great, I think, with barberries and with this fire chief arborvitae, and it will really help fill this corner. Okay, another tough as nails perennial that I think looks beautiful in the spring, beautiful in the summer, and beautiful in the fall, and that is yarrow. It's right here at your feet, Stuart, and I love the way it looks when it first starts coming out. It's got almost a ground cover effect. It's blue-green in color in its foliage, and I just think it looks ferny and delicate and very befitting of the spring season. You'd be able to find it at most most garden centers and nurseries right now. Mine blooms in white, but you can also find it blooming in yellow. There's a variety, I believe, called moonshine, I believe, but it's whatever, it will bloom in yellow. It's very, very tough. It's very drought tolerant. You can just whack it back in the middle of the summer and it will come back again with beautiful new foliage. This came from just a small clump that I planted last year, and you can see that it's already spread to another clump there. It will spread, but not in an obnoxious, invasive kind of way, so you can easily propagate it, divide it, and share it with others, or share it in other places of your garden. And I think well, as long as we are on location along Autumn's Edge, there's a couple of others here that I think are worth noting. I don't know that I would put this on my list, but as I'm showing you these, I see a happy surprise over here. In fact, I'd forgotten I'd even planted them. So I have some Baptisia. I've got one here, and there's another clump right here. And again, I forgot that I even planted it. It has that same blue-green foliage I love so much, and the leaves will be kind of large and round, but a beautiful textural contrast to the other things growing in this area. Now, I think it's a very tough plant. I love the color of its blooms, but the one thing that I have noticed is it's kind of a downside, is it does take a while to get established and really perform very well. So that's one reason that I wouldn't say it's just tough as nails and easy, that anybody can grow it. It requires patience, and not a lot of us have that when it comes to gardening, and I am first and foremost the biggest offender. Something else, as long as we're over here, that I would include on that list, and it's a plant that we all too often discard when we're finished with them in the fall, and that is chrysanthemum. So these are white chrysanthemums that I had last year. They were in some container plantings, and I just planted them into the garden bed. I'll keep whacking them back until around the 4th of July, and they will bloom in white and be really stunning, I think, as a counterpoint to the other colors here, and look very autumnal because they are mums after all. So think twice before you discard the mums that you have for maybe just display only in the fall and plant them in your flower beds. Well, a friend of mine years ago, she said that she thought that this next candidate was her signature flower, or maybe I told her it should be because she could grow it so effectively, and that was Scabiosa. And you can see that I've got a number of clumps of it. Here's a clump right here. I've got a clump here, and look at all those emerging buds. Also look at the heavy clay soil on my pointer, which is just the nature of my soil, especially when it's wet and heavy like it is right now. So I've got a number of clumps. There's one, there's one, there's one, there's one. These all started out as 4-inch plants last year. I've got it in several locations, and you'll notice that when it blooms, it'll bloom in a pale lavender color that will coordinate beautifully with the darker purple of the Salvia and also with the lavender of the Nepeta. So that's a good trio right there. If you want to plant 3 in 1 and you can have that kind of purple lavender garden look, I would plant Nepeta, I would plant Scabiosa, and I would plant Salvia all in the same location. And you'll see that, like the Nepeta, I've got it planted all up and down the walkway up until I get to the front porch. So there's some there, and then if you'll follow me this way, Stuart, you can see that it even has started to wrap around the corner. And look here. Look at those buds that are just getting ready to pop. And there will be an absolutely beautiful companion to the Nepeta that I've got here, but I also think that all of these purples and blues and this blue-gray foliage looks spectacular with anything that has chartreuse in its leaf color, and that would include like Miss Lemon Abelia, Lemon Lime Nandina, Sunshine Ligustrum, really anything. This Golden Feverfew, I think it all looks beautiful together, and maybe one of my favorite planting combinations. That would be called flanting. Flavington. Anyhow, it all looks beautiful together as a trio or just kind of a quartet. And I definitely think if you're just looking for something and you want to start out with a tried and true composition, that would be it. Try something that has a yellow foliage in shrub form and that in its floral form will come out blue. Okay, and finally, Penstemon. Look at that beautiful Husker's red. It's absolutely gorgeous. It will bloom in white with some of that same dark purpley red in the stem. I've got one clump there, one clump here, and a number of other smaller clumps that kind of go in and around. There's one right there by the Sunshine Ligustrum, in and around Autumn's Edge. Can you see it right there? Yeah, oh, and there's another one, yeah. Like I say, there's a number of them. I also have some of it that is in green leaf. This is one right here. And happily it decided to plant itself there because I don't even know what this shrub is, but I think it's a goner, so it will just take its place. If I wanted to, I could go ahead and cut it back right now for more and delayed bloom, but I think I'm just gonna let it do its thing. It almost looks like a small shrub when it's in bloom because it blooms in such a mass and the girth of each segment is just so large that it's really, really spectacular. And it makes not just a beautiful clump, but a nice vertical element when it comes into bloom. And it really, if you get down low, you can see how gorgeous it looks at landscape level in terms of the composition of just the design. And I think it's really, really beautiful. Lastly, and a bonus, easy to grow. You might want to put it on your list because you can find it in garden centers right now, and that is just tall phlox. I especially love phlox David that blooms in white. Last year I had one that bloomed in kind of a fuchsia color called kapow, and it can be drought tolerant, heat tolerant, looks really, really beautiful. Its downside is it can be prone to powdery mildew, but you know what? There are new varieties out there that are not so prone, and if you keep an eye on it, it will nevertheless perform beautifully for you. So when we come back, let's make some closing statements, and we'll probably try to put up a screenshot of all of these for you. Okay, if you're worried, if you live in this area and you are under a freeze warning, well, obviously you want to take into account where you are and I guess basically the nature of your garden. But here's why I'm not too concerned about it. I've checked 4 different weather apps and only one of them says it's going to get down to 32. The other thing I know is that it has been very, very warm. So the residual heat that's in the ground in those temperatures, since the temperatures have been so warm, that will help keep those plants warm and they will be warmer within that soil. If you've put out some annuals in container baskets or things like that, you might want to bring them in or cover them. If you have a very, very prized specimen that you think can't handle a freeze even as light as 32, you might want to protect it with some frost claws. For example, I've got these large eugenias that I have to take in every year, but these eugenias are actually cold tolerant down to about, I think 26 or 27, so I'm not going to be too concerned. Also, these have acclimated to these cooler temperatures because they've been in situ for about a month now, and they've really adjusted to it, so I'm not too concerned. Bless you, Stuart. If anything had a lot of new growth on it that you were afraid might get frostbit, then definitely you can cover that with some frost claws, throw a sheet over them or something, but I'm really not too concerned. If you jump the gun and you put out lots of tomatoes and peppers and you think it can't handle them based on where they are, then you might want to throw some kind of, a light blanket over them. But I'm not too concerned because not only do I really question whether or not it will it'll get down to 32, but what's perhaps more important is how long does it stay at 32 or below it. And if you look at the hour by hour forecast on your weather forecast, it tells you that probably it's not going to last that long. So if you are wondering why I'm not freaking out, that is why. The other reason I'm not is because all of my hydrangeas bloom on new wood, not on old wood, so I'm guaranteed of having a hydrangea show even if it does get down to freezing or under freezing temps. So keep an eye out, but don't be too concerned. Just know thy garden. I've said it a million times, know thy garden, and just trust that your garden itself may know what to do to protect the things you have in the ground. You guys take care. Happy Garden Life Sunday.